The Paris Principles also require that national institutions engage with the international human rights system. By the international human rights system, we mean the Human Rights Council and its mechanisms like the Universal Periodic Review and the special procedures. We also mean the treaty monitoring bodies that deal with each of the major human rights treaties, and indeed more generally.
As you will know now, we have almost over 100 national human rights institutions, 70 of which they've got accredited with an A status.
So by having full standing and being able to make submissions to treaty bodies and so on, and of course participating in the UPR, it does advance the domestic mandate, which allows us to fulfill our mandate even better by making comment in the international front.
The key answer is that we live in a global environment and human rights affect everybody all the time. Our ability to achieve human rights outcomes regionally depends on us being engaged internationally, and equally achieving human rights in Australia depends on understanding the international standards.
Over the years, I think really the international community and the international human rights mechanisms have really realized both the value of NHRI contributions, but also very much understood now the unique status that they have and really the unique role they have. So we've seen that when an NHRI that is independent and effective makes a contribution to a UN mechanism, that will very much be taken into account.
So giving us the global picture is important. Then at the same time, they are also able to assess effort of the government side in an objective manner. For me, this is key. And these are very much qualitative information in addition to the quantitative one that are given that can help then when you address your recommendation in concluding observation to the state party to be focused, to be able to give them actionable recommendation, because they also come with what can be done, what can't be done now, what were the constraints, etc.
We've had the UN Special Rapporteur on both sexual violence but also on violence against women come to Australia. I mean, part of that was to lift the visibility, particularly of the issue of violence against women, Indigenous women in Australia. We were able to really help her plan a visit and take her all over Australia to meet with those women and key advocates and stakeholders that she needed to. And then we had a report which formed a basis for a continuing discussion, not just with government and around funding, but also with civil society in terms of service delivery and other things.
An important role is to disseminate that information back at the national level, to hold dialogues within the country, to create that awareness, to do media work on it, so that the government cannot hide what were the concluding observations, what they were challenged on, etc.
We believe our findings are robust, that they're based on credible evidence.
The international system is a way for the institutions to advocate for their findings and recommendations, and in return receive the support of the international system in domestic advocacy and domestic persuasion.
And with treaty bodies, special procedures, whatever, you have to be able to assure yourself you're going to get some impact back in New Zealand. That's the whole point. We have a concept we call water on stone, which is basically just drip, drip, drip on the stone. So that if we're doing, let's just say it's the N issue, say work for people with disability, that will appear in every convention treaty body report in the same sort of language with the same sort of recommendation and the same thing in the UPR, so that when they look across it as they're beginning to, they see that consistency. And as one of those drips actually wins, we can take it off and go with another.
The reports that we prepare for the periodic reviews, the treaty body monitoring mechanisms, is not just about human rights violations. It's a voice that we're offering or affording to these silent sufferers who are going through so much. So by doing this, by engaging with the international community, we're making sure that although there are lots of instances where redress is not afforded to them within a local context, we're not going to stop there. We're going to take this even further. We're going to make sure that different people, different organisations and different perspectives will come into these voices.